Back again with AMG Hobby Talk. By the way, none of you will see this on the recording, but for some reason, StreamYard changed the song on the countdown timer. So I actually mentioned it on another podcast I had where we were doing a recording like that. The guys literally looked at me and they go, "Did you change?" I didn't change anything. This is StreamYard. That's all them. But I very elevator music ish. We had a very elevator music or hold music kind of thing is what that sounded like. But it was interesting. Anyway, Collector the Scalps, Collector People. Steve, how are you?
I am great, and I did notice the change of music. Change is good.
Well, apparently, yeah, listen, it is what it is. It works either way. We got it done. So it is just Steve and myself this week. Blair is off gallivanting. Lord knows what he's doing. And Sherry has been swamped down. That's okay. We've got a couple of things we'll talk about. So just to give everybody a heads up, we'll talk about the trade night and card show. We'll talk a little bit about how the Opeachy from last week and see how that was received a little bit. And we'll talk some Four Nations Cup. You guys aren't going to get the full scintillating analysis, but I'll give you a little story behind that. We'll have a little bit of fun with that one. I talked about it on my other podcast as well. So we had a little fun with that as regardless. We'll talk a little bit about cards that came in the shop. So we've got that on there as well. And then, of course, we'll make brief mention of eBay and a couple of things that you might want to note. So before we get into all that, let's quickly talk about trade night and card show. So as far as trade night is concerned, Steve, what were your experiences? How'd it go?
Trade night went well as planned. Might have been a little bit lighter crowd than normal, but I think it was also for once in about 10 days, a nice mild evening. So I think people may have taken advantage of getting out and about. Although, as you can see, there's a good crowd there. So it kind of came and went a little faster. They all came at once, and it was quiet to start. Obviously, the Friday night supper traffic, and then the last 30 minutes or so, it quieted down too. But there was a nice crowd in there, and that looks like might be from the card show as well. That last picture there.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a mix of the different pictures. They're not exactly in order, so it's one of those things I kind of just took it. But regardless, it's just to give you a little bit of a sense of it, and then we'll talk about the card show as well, since the two are back to back. So we'll touch on that. So from the trade night, that's one aspect of it, and then what I'll do is I'll actually switch over to the top of my images here. So if you're watching on the video, you'll get the full effect. So now I am going to switch over fully to the card show, looking down at some of the tables. So did you get a chance to peek into the card show side of it a little bit?
Absolutely. I showed up around 2 hours early, just to help people find their tables. And actually, I got to give a shout out to Sherry. She was unbelievably organized. I don't know, she must have went through a container or two of ink, printing off everyone's nameplate for their table. So probably our smoothest move in and setup since we started the show. So it's been a trial and error thing, and I think this definitely was the best setup. And hopefully moving forward, it'll continue to run smooth.
Absolutely, I like it. And quick aside, just we're showing some images of different folks setting up and all that. One of the things now, I have obviously seen them at the shows, but I will say this past week or so, I actually had the first opportunity. So I'm just highlighting here. You got this little section here with all those, those BCW like plastic boxes with all
Mhm.
the different levels and everything. I had never actually acquired one. For one of my collections, I actually grabbed one, but they've also got ones that are a little bit taller for graded cards as well. Even though it's a little bit overkill, a little over engineered, I do like it though for certain collections because you can see from the image there, you can put the top loader. It comes with the top loader in it, and you can put a card in there to show basically what's in there, and it's actually very handy for a card show. Obviously, it's very good, like demonstrated here. But actually, for a personal collection, if I'm putting it on my shelf there with other stuff and they stack on top of each other, I like the fact that quickly on the side you can see exactly what it is. It's got a lid that can shut, and then it's got a handle on a lot of them as well. So I think
Yes,
that's actually quite
and I
useful.
believe we've had them in stock a couple times, and when we get them, they sell out, and then they end up going on back order again. Especially if you're moving things often, like we just
Mhm,
use the cardboard 3200 count boxes,
mhm.
but they get handled so much that every other month we're having to replace the cardboard box. So yeah, and I don't think they're super expensive, maybe 40 or $50, but
Approximately, yeah.
in the run of a year, they're definitely going to pay for themselves because they're very durable.
Yeah. So I just something when I saw that there, I wanted to quickly make a note of it because that's my first chance to actually have hands-on experience using it for myself for my own collection purposes. So I like it. I will probably get a couple more because it works. I'm a player collector, so for some of those collections, it's actually very handy to be able to organize it. And again, being able to put the image on the front, quickly being able to identify without having to buy labels or whatever. Usually I'll have to put label, but the cardboard box does disintegrate. If you're opening and closing it all the time, it does tend to break down. So they're a little more expensive, but they're also a little bit more durable. So pluses and minuses, just something interesting I saw there with the images. But otherwise looks pretty good. So I like that. I'll quickly touch on a couple of products there. A lot of it is just restock. So a lot of what I'm about to read to you, we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but it is restocks of things. Quantity, availability, pricing, reach out directly to the store. That is always the best way. That way you'll be able to get the latest and greatest. And at the bottom there, we've got the Instagram and the website, 2 hubs that you can use. Also put the links in the description. So a lot of that is there, and you can use any of those things, and it'll be helpful. Quickly, I'll just go through a list here. 2024 Panini Prism Football Hobby Blaster. So that's in there. 2024 Panini Contenders Optic Basketball International. Mouthful, but there's a fit there. 2024 Panini WNBA Prism Basketball. 2025 Panini Hoops Basketball. 25 Panini Prism Basketball. So a lot of basketball here. 2025 Panini Donruss Soccer International. Pokemon Go Premier Deck Holder Collection. So very specific. We don't have Sherry here to give us information, but it is Pokemon, so obviously popular in a certain degree. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 151 Booster Bundle. So I know a little bit about the 151. I know that one's very popular, so that's another one in there. Again, quantities and pricing, reach out to the store. Paradox Rift Blister Packs. I have no doubt that's going to be good. I've heard of Paradox Rift. Twilight Masquerade Pokemon Booster Bundle. Surging Sparks Booster Bundle, also Pokemon. 2024 Topps Chrome Football Value Box. So I think Steve mentioned that, they basically were asked about quantities and everything. So it looks like they're going to get some in. Again, inquire within to get the full information. 2024 Topps Midnight Basketball. And then we've got a couple of those things in there. And actually on here, I think the last thing is on this list is not a product that way, but the collectible plastic card bin gray. So I think that's the BCW one we were just talking about.
Those are them. Ironic. I didn't even know they were on there. But yeah, so we do have some of those coming in. Also, too, usually our orders come on Wednesday. But as far as I know, since these are mostly restocks and I haven't received my shipping notification, if I was a betting man, I think they'll be coming Thursday. But again, as products come, Blair always posts a picture of them and posts them on our social media. So might be here tomorrow, but I think it will probably be Thursday.
Very nice, very nice. And then we also did receive a couple of comments on last week's episode, so thank you always for the engagement. We appreciate it. So first one was Trip 1080, who just gave us 3, I think they were flower or bouquet of flower emojis. Appreciate it nonetheless. So good stuff. Appreciate that. Fulton Cards actually gave us a little something there. Nice review of Opeachy. Note the card you showed was not the base marquee rookie. So we went through the mock-ups. It was apparently not the base marquee rookie. It was Opeachy's 3D lenticular card. That's how the lenticulars are supposed to look. So just giving us a little info there on the mock-ups. So thank you very much appreciate that information. So always happy to take it. We'll usually just look at the mock-ups and what's included in the checklist thing quickly to do a quick overview. But we always leave the link. If someone wants to look at it more extensively, they'll get more info. But since I bring up the Opeachy, so good timing on that comment, Opeachy was the new product last week. So what were the thoughts? How did people receive it from your perspective?
It was very positive. Like we've discussed before, it's an affordable product. And, there's just collectors that, understandably can't afford the high dollar product. So Opeachy is fun. You can get some good hits in it. It's good for the entry level collector and avid collector as well. So, like we discussed, it has a big checklist. So those that like set building, it gives them a little bit of a challenge. But I'd say we moved more than half our stock of it, and it will just continue to sell till it's gone.
Very nice. I like it. Yeah, it's always nice when we get bombarded with a lot of expensive products. It is nice to have a change of pace. It might not be for everybody, but there is an audience for that. There is an audience that still has some interest in that, and I think it's good that that is available to provide it. I think that works out very well. So let's take a look. One thing we'll touch on here, since we haven't done it the last couple of episodes, is I'll quickly make reference to the eBay store. We'll usually talk about it a little bit. There are auctions on there Sunday to Sunday. A couple of the cards that are going to be shown here in the screen as I go scroll through it will also be in the cards we're going to showcase. So I want to make sure we touch on that. So I'll quickly just skim through just to show you. It isn't just hockey. Obviously, hockey is going to be an emphasis, but you'll be able to see just from this first screen right here. You're seeing basketball. You're seeing a Luke Robitaille rookie graded. You're seeing a Joseph Wall clear-cut hockey, and then another basketball card there. Hockey, 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 vintage baseball. Opeachy baseball, they're graded. So you've got that. So again, you're getting it. Here's a jambalaya, which we've shown case. So that jambalaya was one that was showcased previously. Autograph hockey. Oh, Doug Gilmore rookie. Although we're going to have to teach somebody how to spell Doug Gilmore. So I think we're going to have some questions. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. We'll call ourselves out on that one. So Beehive Group 3, excellent. Tim Horton. So you can see a mix there. Ted Williams O-Pee-Chee baseball card in a min 7, near min 7. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Especially with black borders, they get chipped like crazy. The 71s are big time. Matty Beniers, the gold 1 of 1, the PMG 1 of 1. That's pretty nice. So again, you've got a mix. You've got the buy it nows. You've got auctions that run Sunday to Sunday. So a mix. Ovechkin right there. And actually, that reminds me, I want to touch on something related to that. But nonetheless, you get the general idea. There's a lot of different stuff. New, old, hockey, non-sport, different sports included. A whole mix of stuff. Even Funko Pops. We got a whole mix of things that's included in there. So just something to bear in mind. Links are in the description if you're curious. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Check it out because sometimes you might see some interesting stuff that's there for auction and it'll give you a different perspective. So one thing. So the Ovechkin reminded me of something, but I'll touch on that in a second. So first, real quick, I'll give everybody a quick story. Obviously, if you watched the last week's episode, I had a little bit of fun with the edit. Steve hasn't seen it yet. He hasn't seen his star-making turn. So we did have a little bit of fun. In the course of doing the episode, obviously, Sherry was there on the road with Brad. And one thing, I'll just give you guys a little inside baseball. The account is obviously under AMG. So Sherry has ultimate veto power over everything. But what's funny is we were talking about Four Nations. And Steve was giving us, his take and giving us analysis. That's why I showed the Randy Carlisle image with everything on it. It was actually very good. He was talking through a couple different things and it was all there. And then at some point, Sherry's connection cut out. So she popped out to pop back in. But when she pressed the button, she killed the recording. She literally stopped. So Steve was talking and so while Steve was talking, I was listening. But at the same time, I was looking around trying to figure out what was going on because I noticed the counter had stopped. So I have the ability to stop the counter here myself, but so does Sherry because she's ultimately the admin for the account. But I was trying to figure it out looking, and then I finally realized that the recording had stopped at about 21 minutes. That's where we were at the time that basically it cut off. And then everything Steven said was completely lost in the sands of time. We didn't realize. I said at the end I had to kind of stop and say, "Hey, that was great," but we didn't get any of it.
Yeah, I gave the best analysis ever, and followed by a Miracle on Ice speech that no one will ever know about. But it must have worked because Canada won.
Yeah, they did. It was very inspirational. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was tears were shed. It was quite a thing. So yes, Canada did win the Four Nations Cup. Obviously, very big. I saw the rating for it. It was a monster rating. Not surprising. People. Under the circumstances. Let's say under the circumstances, there was a lot of extra attention. It still would have gotten a lot of attention, but there was a little extra spice included in there. So congratulations to Team Canada winning that. Big time. Also, I will say, from a card perspective, we can say this. It is good for Connor McDavid to have his big moment because Crosby, back in his day as a young guy, had the golden goal and it added to different things. Stanley Cups, the golden goal, all these accomplishments. And then as captain of this team, here's another, he doesn't need it, but another notch, another thing on his belt that has kind of accumulated all these accomplishments. But it was good for McDavid as, the current best player in the world, from that category. He's got the championship belt for it. It was good for him to get the big moment that won the championship game.
Yep. And also, too, noticed a couple spikes in cards as well as a result of that. All of a sudden, people are asking me for Mitch Marner and the, what is it? The United States of Tkachuk. Getting a few, cards being purchased of those guys too. So people are definitely watching and paying attention.
Yep. Success in a high profile tournament, a high profile outside of winning a Stanley Cup or having a great Stanley Cup run, like you're playing against top tier players. So having success in this scenario it's not a bad thing. It's not going to hurt you to have a good performance here. It's especially if you've got a memorable goal or a big play or something. It's a good thing. It actually helps out and it gets attention to you and the right kind of attention, the attention that you want.
And I would say too, I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the event. I was like, middle of the season, are the guys going to be into it? My opinion changed immediately. These guys were all into it. So, and it was great for the sport. And then, PK Subban had a great interview about, the difference between this tournament and, what the NBA might be doing as far as their all-star games and things like that. there's no comparison. Like you could tell
Mhm.
these guys cared, and the NBA was a little more lackluster and more of a show, where this is about pride and caring about the person sitting next to you and your country. So it was pretty cool, and I'm assuming they're going to do it again because it was a big success. But I will say, Canada's going to have to make a lot of changes because unfortunately, some of our big guys are getting older. So we might need to inject a little bit of a youth in there moving forward. But hopefully, guys like Connor Bedard and players like that will be ready to step in, in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. And it ended up being very good promotion for the sport. It was received very favorably, as Steve said. So I think overall, I would say for the NHL, I would consider that a great success. That was about as good as you could ask for the circumstances and everything. Kind of an aside, also. So the reason I showed when I was going through all those different eBay auctions and everything, one of the ones that I saw was that Ovechkin card. Now that was one thing that I was kind of discussing earlier with a couple of folks yesterday. Um, Ovechkin had a big game the other day, well, yesterday I think, and it was a hat trick. Now the importance of that is obviously it gets him closer to Gretzky, so he is rapidly getting closer. He's 13 goals now, 13 goals to go, but a hat trick. And I will say this: we did a little deeper analysis, and I'll see if this catches you, Steve, and curious what you think about this. So first of all, obviously Ovechkin started off super hot. Last season he started off super cold and then heated up down the stretch. This time around he started off super hot. He broke his leg. It was away for a month, and then came back and is still. He's actually at 29 goals in 41 games at age 39, which is tremendous. He's not. He's still playing very well, and the team is good. So it's not just like the team sucks and they're just feeding him the puck. They are feeding him the puck, but at the same time he's capitalizing on the shots. Two of the goals were one of them was kind of a classic Ovechkin one slap shot from kind of his position from his office. The other one was a great wrist shot from the middle of the ice, and it was like it just cleanly beat the goaltender. Like he's still got the skill and ability to score almost at will when things are rolling for him. Couple of big things, takeaways that I have. Obviously, he's closing in on Gretzky. He's still on pace potentially to do it this season, which would be crazy considering he missed a month. That would be a big accomplishment for him. But regardless, this game gave him his 135th game-winning goal, which ties him for the all-time record with Jaromir Jagr. That's a great record. And then his next goal will be his 30th, and that would be the 19th of 20 seasons that he scored at least 30, which extends his own record, which is another big one. He's got the most 40 goal seasons. He's tied for the most 50 goal seasons. So like he is by most metrics the greatest overall top pure goal scorer that there is. We were having a little debate though. We were having some fun with my buddy of mine was bringing up Mike Bossy, who obviously on a per season basis. The problem with Bossy is that he stopped where he stopped, so we never got a chance to see where it could have gone. So it's the what if. But with Ovechkin doing it for 20 years and still being really good at year 20 is kind of what's been interesting with him. That's a very special case.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I don't know him personally, obviously, but maybe last year he may not have come into camp in very good shape. He just didn't look like himself, and maybe it was a wake up call, and he got back at it and came into camp ready to go this year because he looks 5 years younger again. So for whatever reason, and I thought Washington was supposed to be doing a rebuild a year or two ago, and now they're kind of they're one of the top teams in the league. So it's all kind of odd to me, but I guess as Ovi goes, Washington will go. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in the playoffs this year.
Absolutely. Now, I think I could be mistaken on my timing, but I believe in 2023, so 23-24 season, I think Ovechkin's father passed away that year. So I think it's one of those things where that could have been impactful as well. It's one of those things where anything that impacts you and throws you a little bit off, it just seemed like he wasn't ready out of the gate. One way or the other, he wasn't ready out of the gate last season, and it just wasn't moving. He did eventually turn it on late, and then was able to make it respectable. But it's this season he just came out straight up scoring right out of the gate. But I think it's interesting though that now he's starting to rack up all these little records on top of like the big record that he's chasing, and it adds up to it. I think though the key takeaway and something that I was saying to my buddies when we were talking about it, I said in reality we're splitting hairs. Like I said, Bossy in terms of pure goal scoring is known as the biggest goal scorer. Although we did the goals per game stat, because that was one of the ones. Bossy does own that record. He has the most goals per game. But do you know who's just behind him? So I'll give you the number. 0.76 goals per game was Bossy for his 10-year career. But do you know who's right behind him at 0.75?
This is an odd one because I think he's underrated as a goal scorer. And that he might have played a couple years too long, and I'm probably way off. But for some reason, I want to say Mike Gartner. I don't know. He had a lot of like 30 and 40 goal seasons.
He did. So he would be right at the top of 30 goal seasons, consistency in those ones. There were two pre-war guys. I'll pull up the names in a minute, but there were two pre-war guys who were there, but they don't, that's a different era. But for guys that you would consider, Mario.
Oh, yeah.
0.75 goals per game over the course of his career. So, which is ridiculous if you think about it. But the point that I was making, like I said, my buddy was talking about Bossy, and I agree. He was one of the greatest pure goal scorers in terms of pure goal scoring. But Mario can, number one, do everything. But number two, we're talking about 0.76 versus 0.75.
Mm-hmm.
And Mario played more, and he kept scoring. And the thing is, technically, his last comeback dropped him below Bossy, because if he had quit in his first retirement, he was actually ahead of Bossy.
Yeah.
So in reality, it hurt him that he kept playing. But to put it into perspective, when he came back from his cancer diagnosis, that his first season back, full season, he scored 69 goals in 70 games.
Yeah. No, he was. And the older I get, I used to always be Gretzky, but the last 4 or 5 years, nothing to do with the political stuff. I turned to Lemieux. I just started to appreciate his game more. And, plus he was what, 6'4", something like that. He was just a big man that could do whatever he wanted out there, but had the skills of, the elite players in the league. So yeah, he is officially my greatest player of all time. Me personally.
I think that's a fair argument. I would be inclined to agree with you because, like I said, to literally what you touched on, I like the fact that he could push his way through guys if he needed to.
Yeah.
Or he could outskill them. Hockey Night in Canada had the clip of him deking the entire North Stars team to score in the Stanley Cup final. So he could do that. Or he was big enough to be able to fight his way through guys and still be able to score at a high level. So he could do all those things, and then he still had the skill.
Yeah, it was scary too, because he must have had a wingspan of like 8 feet. So I mean, he was a hard guy to to defend, because he took up so much ice. And, with the good head fakes, and he was very shifty for a big guy. So he could turn guys inside out pretty easy.
Yep, absolutely. So that's just something that I thought about. So maybe my takeaway here, just to give everybody, is I would say with Ovechkin, the stuff he's doing, I would say just appreciate greatness while we have it. Because right now he's still playing very well at this point. And right now, every time he scores a goal, it seems like he's approaching a record or getting close to a record or breaking a record or extending a record. And you're not going to see it again for a very long time. Even Austin Matthews, who's right at the top of goals per game and everything. I think Ovechkin in terms of goals per game is tied with Gretzky. And those guys are right now at a similar amount of games. So that's why he's approaching the record in almost the same amount of games as Gretzky. But obviously this age 39 season, he's having at age 39, Gretzky had 9 goals. At age 39, Ovechkin has 29 and counting. So he's, down the stretch, he's held his level better, but it's but it's a different era. He never had the 1980s. He couldn't have a 90 goal season. It wasn't possible in his era.
And also too, I think Ovechkin, kind of like we touched on with Lemieux, he's big and strong. Big and strong enough, he can will his way to some goals. I know he scores a lot of open netters and that now, but him and Matthews are a little bit different player. Like I said, there's been over the years where Ovechkin just outworked you to get the goal, whether it's outbodied you or whatever. So, Matthews has great skill, but I wouldn't say he's as, physical a presence as Ovechkin is.
Absolutely. So I just say enjoy it while it's happening. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it will be a while, no matter what happens. It will be a while before we see anybody approaching those numbers. And I would say do the same for Crosby. It's going to be a while before those two guys ended up in the same rookie class because of the lockout and because of the circumstances. It's going to be tough for us to see two guys come out that actually meet the hype and actually successfully they produced. Both won Stanley Cups, both actually have all their accomplishments going in. but it's going to be a while before we get a pair that actually do that out of the same rookie class.
Do you know, just out of curiosity, you know who the pre-war guys were that had the high percentage?
Yeah, I will give them to you. So while we're doing that, I'll start pulling up the card of the week, but I will pull it up for you. Goals per game NHL. And you guys should check this out sometimes because, again, once you get a chance to see some of this stuff, it's very interesting. Highest goals per game. Yes. So, two players there that qualify. So, both 0.75 goals per game as well, in addition to Lemieux. So, one is Cy Denny.
Cy Dennehy.
Yeah. Well, there's no H. I just see Denneny.
Yeah.
So, that's how I pronounced it. The
I
other one's Babe Dye.
Okay, I'm not Cy Dennehy. I believe 1926 or something like that. I think he played for Ottawa, and at one point in time, we ended up having his Stanley Cup ring in our possession, and the ring would not fit on my pinky finger. So I assume he was quite a small player back then. And it wasn't much to the ring. It was pretty neat. But yeah, I remember somehow we acquired that in a big collection, probably 20 plus years ago. It was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's what I say. Like when you're talking about, and that was a completely different era of the NHL. In the 20s, and the NHL is not the same NHL even 20 years later. So that's a very different style of game. And both those guys played. One of them, Babe Dye, played 272 games. He scored 203 goals in 272 games. So that's how you get to that point per game, goals per game. And then Cy scored 247 goals in 329 games. It's not the same. It's not the same kind of seasons. It's not. Again, but in this particular category, you get punished the longer you play because your average tends to drop as you get older. So that's why I say like Ovechkin being able to be that consistent over almost 1,500 games is the reason he's approaching the all-time goal scorer. That's how you got to do it. You just keep hanging in there. It's very interesting. Like I said, it's tough to be up there. A lot of guys are not.
His rookie card's been interesting the last couple months. It's a roller coaster. One will sell for 9,000, and one sells for 6, and up and down. So we've actually acquired a couple Ovechkins the last month, but you really have to be careful when you buy them because week to week they're up and down. So good time to sell them, obviously, but buying them can be a touchy slope. But as he gets within a couple goals of the record, which he's getting there, I could see a nice little spike in the cost of his card.
Absolutely. And one last thing I'll leave you with, since we were having all those stats and having some fun with them, here's a little trivia one that you can throw at somebody and probably win a bet. You'll probably win a beer with this. So on the list, I'm just looking at the NHL records list, and they've got the goals per game. And that's basically where I'm pulling this information from. Obviously, Bossy is still, like I said, number one all time in terms of goals per game. Lemieux right behind him. Again, for the reasons we talked about, extremely impressive. Again, if he retired earlier, he would actually be number one in this list. So, but still very impressive. Cy Dennehy and Babe Dye, two players that we talked about pre-war era. The highest current player who's still active is Austin Matthews, 0.64 goals per game. Ovechkin is 0.6, which is tied with Gretzky. But a lot of the names here you expect. Number 9 here on this list is Brett Hall. Number 10 is Bobby Hall. So back to back, you've got the two Halls. But number 11 is probably a name that a lot of people wouldn't think of. So this one will probably win you a bet if you try it with somebody. Number 11 on this list with 0.56 goals per game for his career is Tim Kerr.
You know what? That kind of came in the back of my mind too. He used to just park himself in front of the net, and he got a chance to score. He scored. Remember, he used to have that big collar around his neck because he took so many cross checks. So yeah, he was that guy could put the puck in the net.
Yeah, that's a sneaky one because in 655 career games, he scored 370 goals. It's however you get the job done. So that's a sneaky one. I don't think Tim Kerr is going to be on a lot of people's top of their list for people they're going to be thinking about in this category with the Gretzkys and the Halls and all these folks. So kind of interesting there. All right, so let me grab a couple of the cards that came in the shop. Let me grab this list here. We've actually got an interesting mix this week, I will say. So Steve provided a couple of different images, so I will share this with you. And we got multiple sports and all that represented. So I think
it was a good week of pickups, and actually I got lots more at the show on Saturday. So some great vintage lots. I actually posted on Facebook yesterday a really nice, clean lot of CFL football, which we hadn't had for a while. But yeah, I got some 63 Parkers, 66 Tops cards. It was just the show was great. It was a lot of fun and kind of picked up something for everyone, I think.
Absolutely. I like it. And then actually, you remind me, I'll share something with that if folks have been paying attention to the podcast the last couple of weeks, going back a while here, I've actually found something in one of my boxes here that is a fun throwback to one of the recent episodes we've done the last couple of months. All right. So first one here, we got a Bryce Young. This is part of that Tops, kind of Tops Chrome. I forget exactly. Sorry, no,
I
it's
think
Tops
it's
Composite. It was Composite.
Yeah.
Yes, because you got a lot of different designs and everything. This one's it's very busy. There's a lot going on with it. Bryce Young, it does have the autograph with sticker on there. Obviously, it is unlicensed. They did do a good job though. They took the helmet shot straight forward, so it doesn't. It kind of hides the fact that you can't see the logo. So regardless, they did a decent job with it. It is one of his rookies included in this.
Yeah.
So
Numbered out of 25 as well. And
yes,
he's actually a guy that a lot of people have kind of given up on, but now they're starting to, turn back towards him. He kind of finished the season strong, and now he's kind of back on the one to watch list. So hopefully he can continue to develop. And this is a good card to pick up since it's out of 25.
absolutely. All right, next one here. We've got a color flow. This is Brent Burns. And from the pattern, I'm guessing this is the Golden Treasures 1 of 1. Is that right?
Yep, this is the 101.
Yeah. The picture doesn't do it justice. If any of you have ever seen the Golden Treasures, check them out in hand. In hand, they're actually really nice. They play with the light very well. And this is an autograph color flow, so that's nice. And then it's a 1 of 1 on top of it, so that's pretty cool. All right, so we got a Supreme Skill Gretzky, so it's encapsulated. This is for SP Authentic, is what it shows on here. This isn't clear cut. This is
Yes,
it
it actually did come out of this year's clear cut.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it kind of flattened out with the background there. Okay, so it is one of the clear cut ones. So that means it's going to be acetate. It means, again, in hand, it'll show a little differently, but that's a good one.
Yeah.
Looks like at least he did a decent job on the autograph. Some of them are a little sloppy. That one's not too bad.
Yeah, and then it was weird. 30 minutes later, a customer came in and he has the same card, but it's the one, I think it was numbered out of 25. So I actually did make him an offer on that, but he's going to stew it over, he said.
All right. Sounds good. So we got a downtown Tyreek Hill. So if you like your colorful, you like your shiny, Donruss Downtowns. There it is on there. There you go. All right. So we got a Crosby here from Black Diamond. This is Diamond Stars Crosby, number to 5. Patch autograph on there. So thematically appropriate given that we talked about the whole Four Nations. He was captain of Team Canada on that one. And then obviously you're captain of the Penguins. We also talked about Lemieux. So we covered kind of 2 themes that kind of touch on Crosby. This one, based on the way I'm looking at the pattern, I'm guessing it's got a lot of rainbow foil on it. This is probably going to be one that's going to play in the light very well as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the image, it's always going to look a little flat with some of these, but check some of them out in hand, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you see. So this was kind of an interesting one. I never watched Game of Thrones, but when I saw this on the list, I figured people would be interested because here's a non-sport one, though, from a very popular, although I think some people really didn't like the ending, but they enjoyed the series. So I know a lot of these non-sport autographs are very popular.
Yeah. When Brad saw that, he told me that Jamie Lannister was his hero. So that's why I had to show this card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why I don't know. He liked him for whatever reason.
Well, and it's got a quote on there too. I like that it's included a quote. The things I do for love.
Yeah.
I need a complimentary meatloaf. I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. You just put them side by side. And it is on card, which is a nice bonus. All right, so we got Player of the Year contenders. So Tua here. This is Donruss Optic. It is on card. In contrast, this is not a wonderful autograph. I'm not going to lie. That's not my favorite autograph there, but it is an autograph on there. And again, looks like it's the gold version. I'm guessing out of the 10.
Number to 10, yeah.
Very good, very good. So we got some more football in there. Okay, and I think that's the last one we included in there. So we got a little bit of football, a little bit of non-sport, included some hockey on there. So a nice mix of stuff this week. Very nice. Worked out pretty well. I like that. But yes, so good stuff in there. Again, availability or any questions about it, reach out directly to the store. That's the best way. So I'll show this one here, which is the final. One of my favorite things that we talked about over the last couple of weeks was, I think it was when we were talking about Black Diamond. And one of the ones that I was critical of, which we got a comment back for, was when I questioned the retired numbers of the Edmonton Oilers and the inclusion of Al Hamilton. And Blair and I got a lot of hay out of the Al Hamilton thing. But so I was sorting through some of my cards, and I've got a small pile, Steve, of 74, 75 WHA cards. A couple of different players in it. And of course, if we're talking WHA, you can have Al Hamilton.
There he is. Great hair.
There's our guy. There's our guy. So I was like, fantastic. When I was scrolling through, I was like, "Oh, there's my boy Al." I just thought I would share since I had it with me. I got a kick out of it. I was doing a little bit of sorting on some of these cards here. I have at least about 20 cards from that set. So it's kind of an interesting one though. If you are somebody who hasn't checked it out before, you should check out some of those old WHA sets. You'll see a bunch of defunct teams that aren't a thing. You'll see the Cougars, the Blazers. They got the Whalers, the Jets, of course. A lot of the teams and things that you're expecting. And you can check out Bobby Hall here.
The jerseys were great in the WHA as well.
Yeah, so you can have a little bit of fun with that if you're curious. Again, it's kind of a fun era. The Toronto Toros. So you got that one. That was another one that was there. It's kind of a fun curiosity of a league that had a very interesting time, very interesting cup of coffee there. So just something to throw out there, and a little Al Hamilton cameo at the end of the episode. So they're a little bonus. It all comes together. It all ties in. So that's perfect. So very good, Steve. We managed. We didn't have any of the rest of the crew, and we still managed to get there.
Yeah, no hiccups.
Excellent. So you sure on your way out? Just as I'm going to hit the button, do you want to give any other hockey analysis?
No. Yeah, just thanks again for the card show on Saturday. The setup was great, and there was so much positivity. So hopefully, just moving forward, we continue that way. But very, very positive on Saturday.
Excellent. So real quick, I'll give you all the reminders. Appreciate the engagement. Feel free. If there is something that's time sensitive and pressing, reach out directly to the store. You want to know about pricing. You want to know about availability. You saw a card there that you like and you want to know if it's still there. Reach out directly to the store. Best way. The auctions on eBay happening Sunday to Sunday. Also, there are some buy it nows. The Brent Burns that I showed you was there. If you paid attention when I was scrolling through, that Brent Burns was actually available there. But again, you can still inquire. You can ask questions about it at the store. But very important things. I'll always recommend people, if it's something that's not time sensitive or you've got a general question, leave it in the comments section and we'll usually address it the following week. So you can do that and we'll acknowledge those comments. Only other thing I would say is if you could hit like or subscribe, always appreciate that because we always want to get those numbers, slowly move them up. And that's kind of things we're going for. And then if we come across anything fun in the store, we'll try to include some additional videos and things on the channel. If there's something you want to see though, let us know because the feedback will help us. Other than that, so Collector of the Scalps, Collector of the People, Steve, no bonus Blair, no Sherry. She didn't stop Steve from scintillating analysis. We were able to talk about Ovechkin and the rest of it. And now you have a trivia note for Tim Kerr that you can use to win yourself a free beer.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. So anyway, that's it for us this time around. Thanks very much, and we'll catch you in the next one.